Hatch is 135 years old. How many of you actually know that we go back that long to 1879? That's a long damn time, you know. It really is. So I'm going to be wonderfully honest with you and very, very friendly. Usually when I give a talk, it's 135 years, hi Leslie. It's 135 years of letterpress history tucked into 45 minutes or so. I need to say I feel very, very fortunate to be the guy that has been able to make Hatch what it is with your support. And it's not so much that I'm the guy that brought Hatch to where it is. Hatch needed me as much as I needed Hatch. I was 26 years old when I walked into that place. And what I'm trying to say is all I did and all I do is go to work every day and be friendly to people. And that's what built that shop back. And now it's with Seleni and your help to make it what it's going to be in the 21st century. I'm a little bit tired. I'm not really tired, but I am on year 31. And that means all of you guys are shitting in a diaper when, or your big brother or sister were when I started there. So Dan Bronner and I go way, way back to Middle Tennessee State University. I see some friends there. I'm very grateful for these opportunities, and they're not over yet. But I try to announce every day I don't run the shop anymore. Nor did I want to. It got so busy in there, and I was still asked to be a printmaker, so I couldn't do everything at once. So my fancy title is, are you ready? Master Printer. But I encourage you all to call me Mr. Bader if you'd like there. All right, one quick sip of the water. There was a time in my life when it wasn't water, and it didn't matter what hour it was. Two brothers from Wisconsin, Charles and Herbert Hatch, don't go to sleep yet. They come down, they're not carpetbaggers, they start a print shop around the courthouse. They turned the shop over to their son/nephew, Will T. Hatch, who, along with the help of a gentleman named Herman Langham, created all of those great wood blocks that I fell in love with, thanks to serendipity of me getting a chance to get into that shop in 1984. Now, we do still over 600 jobs a year. Seleni will tell you how many are on the books. The printer is the designer is the printer. I will also say this is the first time we've ever given a talk together, and so we're going to cover a couple of things over and over again. We were on the Broadway location only from 1992 to 2013. How many of you folks, and I know you're not in class, but did you guys know that Broadway was not our original location? So I thought I'd bring some pictures along here and let you see what I looked like and what the shop looked like when I stumbled into there. So getting right to the history of the shop. 1879, the shop opens. April, this is the very first poster for the shop. It's a Dodger. It's 6 inches by 9 inches for Henry Ward Beecher, who was the brother of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was the writer of Uncle Tom's Cabin. The TONIGH type, we still have remnants of that in the shop, and for our 125th birthday we treated ourselves to have that whole font recut for us through Hamilton typeface. The first poster, of course, that Mr. Hatch did was from 1879. You know about Mr. Beecher. He was in a scandal, by the way, that was unparalleled in the 19th century. He was an old preacher shacking up with a young gal, and in the 19th century that did not go over very well. You know, of course, about the great job. You've heard me say twice already, the printer is the designer is the printer. Great staff. I will always be able to say that. I think Carl's ZZ Top poster is one of the best ones that ever came out of there. We do a lot of pressure printing, for instance, with the Avita poster. And the whole idea is to use the archive and the blocks that exist, plus carve new blocks. Everybody there at the shop can carve. Everybody there is aware of the responsibility of being a good designer. They all have the college degrees. And so therefore we get a lot of work other than posters. For instance, this box set for Widespread Panic, or Nordstrom's might come in and ask us to do all of the design. Very astute of them as a box store to come in and finger hatch to create an environment where they knew what was cool or hip, so to speak, in the local area by having Hatch do their branding for that specific store opening in Green Hills. But the beauty of the archive, I think, is the great woodblock collection. You carve these blocks once, you carve them well, you could use them year after year, town after town. This is pre-World War II in the rural South, when you did not have a lot of electricity in the rural homes, so there was no advertising competition for advertising dollars. From radio and television, of course, is still in the future. So again, you carve these blocks once, you carve them well, so you could use them year after year, town after town. They were not condescending in their design, but the idea was to get you off the tractor, out of the coal mine, out of the cotton field, out of the kitchen, and into these waterproof tents to see, in this case, Marcus the Magician. A great use of posters, of course, is to blanket the side of a drugstore wall or a barn. This is Belzoni, Mississippi in 1939. You can see there's an itinerant cotton salesman there, and then all the great Hatch posters in the background. This is that fabulous big woman from the Silas Green from New Orleans series. I'm going to back up so that you can see her on the left and on the right of the big word Silas. I mean, this was meant really to get you going. And the Silas Green from New Orleans show was touted as being always clean and always good. By getting you going, I meant getting you into the waterproof tent to see this thing. This played from 1905 to 1957, actually. And this is what I looked like when I started at Hatch. Bronner remembers when I looked like this. And who would have given me this responsibility, I don't know. But there I am balancing a vodka bottle empty on my knee with two pencils or pens on top, having the picture taken. I lived off of Love Circle back then. And what I had done was spend some time in Europe. I had to get back to college because I come from a family of educators, and to stay in the family will, I was carpooling to school, asking a perfect stranger, his name was Xu Lung, what was easy, what could I take just to get my degree? And he shrugged and said, I'm in printmaking, that seems pretty simple. So I went to class with him and fell in love with printmaking, graduated with 9 hours of printmaking. Christy Newell was my teacher. And because I was an English major as a graduate, I had no senior show, so I started showing my artwork in restaurants. And that's where a Vanderbilt art teacher saw my work and said, you have to see this dying old show poster print shop before it goes out of business in downtown Nashville. And I said, what's a print shop? And she took me to Hatch. And this was what I walked into for 8 years. Built in 1923, it lasted until 1992. You've all been to shows at the Ryman Auditorium. So when you're walking out of the Ryman and you pass the Stephen Shields statue, you walk down the stairs. If you'd walk straight across 4th Avenue, you would have walked in the Hatch. You would have walked into this building here. That was part of the interior. That gorgeous wall of type, as most of you know, has been moved to the new shop. And this must remind you a little bit of our new location here. This is what we chose to build around, was the idea and the ergonomically correct interior of a show poster print shop that Mr. Hatch created from 1923 until his death in 1952. A lot of great posters came out of that place. We've always been in the entertainment industry. This is a poster for Elvis Presley playing his hometown in 1956, Tupelo, Mississippi. The order is for 200 posters. 3 of them may exist. They are easily insured for $250,000. And the cost of those posters in 1956 was only $35. A lot of different, I said entertainment, this is what I call entertainment. And everything from petting zoos to, well, you could call this a petting zoo, of course. And then the shop just really barreled through the 50s, 60s, and the 70s, and the 80s after Mr. Hatch died in 1952. We still continue doing music posters, and this is how I got to town. I gave my poems to the lead guitarist for this musician, Waylon Jennings, and that is how I got to Nashville. They actually called me, and I ended up working on Music Row for a time. This gentleman is as important as any slide that I'm going to show you. You are not looking at the real face of letterpress when you look at me or when you look at Bryce. You're looking at the face of letterpress truly historically when you look at Kenneth Hinson here. He was the real deal. We can put a spin on it, we can romanticize it, we can use all the polymer plates we want and say we've got this great press in the basement. Very proud of you for all of that, but this was back when it was blue collar printing. Kenneth died in 2000. I am so grateful for his tenacity and his patience. Bryce got to know him as well. He was just the best out there. So we moved, right? We moved to 1992. You guys are still picking your nose, but we moved this shop. We poured it into this Broadway location like a cup of sugar because it was the only. Good morning, Ellen. Everybody, pay attention. Sit up straight. The president's here. We were just fortunate enough to have a building on Broadway. It used to be a furniture store, so there was a little bit of money to renovate or deconstruct the store, and we got in there, and that's when letterpress started sensing that it was going to have a revival. People started coming to the shop and visiting. 20 years ago, I was still writing the sales in a 6x9-inch journal. We might have sold 2 Elvis postcards and 1 hang poster 20 years ago today, but it didn't take long for the business to get up and running. Several things occurred at the same time. One is the compact disc was invented, and I was asked to create a lot of artwork for the re-releases from the vaults on Music Row, people like Tex Ritter or Bill Monroe, Kitty Wells. Also, the Ryman Auditorium was renovated. I remember it as an abandoned building where you ran tours through. You could only go on the stage, sing "You Are My Sunshine," and buy a Hatch poster and leave again. But they put Gaylord put a lot of money into the building, and this was also one of the reasons why we are able to stand here today in the 21st century and talk about how wonderful Hatch is because we started getting all of the business from the Ryman Auditorium. Also the book No Name Bands like the Beastie Boys at Vanderbilt in the coffee house was now asking me to create posters, and this is important, to give to the band as a thank you for letting him be their booking agent from the coffee house days to the football stadiums, to the arenas. Almost overnight, the poster turned from something functioning as an item to tell you or to sell you something into a celebratory item, something to give to the band or to sell at the concert. The other thing that happened was we were given a lot of work from ad agencies like Button, Erickson, Dye Van Mall, and Lawrence to create artwork or topography for everything from Jack Daniels to Fossil Watch Company coming in and we doing watch tins. And then I was able to get back and start printing again these great blocks like Mark the Magician. And in this case is the exclamation here. I use a huge Vandercook. This is just a few years old. And I also, while the staff is making the great posters, I'm able to do my monoprints, the triple Elvis in this case, and then something that I'm proud of would be the eyes and the mouths of Hatch where I recarved the blocks. Okay, that's my portion of the talk right there. And I did mean to do this fast. It's 9:32 right now. The idea of the shop when I got there was to create a revenue stream so that we did not have to count on Metro Arts Commission. Everybody's great that gives money out there, but why did we have to beg for money when these presses worked? Hence our slogan, preservation through production. I had a paper out as a kid and I sold seeds from the American Seed Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That was the only printing, or that was the only business experience that I had. But when I look back, printing was not in our family works. Music, we all played instruments. Music was as natural to us as breathing. But when I look back on how did I get this career, I do realize that as a kid I was very impressed with design. And I remember, for instance, the Body by Fisher logo in the 1961 Buick that Mom and Dad had. I was paying attention to things back then. I just didn't know what to do with it. When I saw Hatch, being the historian that I am, being the printmaker, and being a waiter of tables, again, with a college degree at Mark's 325 on Union Street, boy, that was a sad day. I thought I went to school to quit waiting tables, but I had to do it again. That's why I say I needed Hatch as much as Hatch needed me. I was given the opportunity to run this place, but I did not want to run it as we became more popular. I needed to get back to the printmaking. I did not know what exactly the new manager should be, but I can tell you that a graphic design teacher has a whole different mentality. A gallery director would not have been a good idea. A university teacher wouldn't have worked because they move, sorry, you guys move at such a slow pace. The best person I thought would have been a restaurant manager, because that is really what Hatch is. We provide a product, we provide it in a timely manner, it's specific to the customer. The raw goods come in one door and the finished product goes out the other door. I also knew that marketing was going to become more important in social media. You saw me, I can't even handle this thing. And it's not that I'm not proud of that or that I'm the big Luddite, but I am not aware of contemporary social media. The shop has so much to offer in the 21st century. Marketing is important, being able to do letterpress. So I started thinking, who is going to be this next manager? And this one person started showing up at workshops at Hamilton or when I was working in Chicago, and she was the go-to volunteer for all of the problems that you solved. And her name was Seleni Aubrey, and so she was working for a family-owned high-end resort in the British West Indies, and her office was on the 37th floor of the John Hancock building in Chicago, and she taught letterpress. And I asked her to come down. I quietly flew up there to see what she did. It's a handling of people, it's a handling of problems, and it's a handling of type that is most important. And so she went through a very quiet interview with the Hall of Fame, and lo and behold, let me introduce to you Seleni Aubrey, the new manager of Hatch Show Print. Get up here. Let's see if she can run this damn thing. You might have to stand down there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stand there.
Go ahead.
Morning.
Morning. Let me have my
Thank you for coming. I'm not quite that old, but I did start got my first official government tax-paying job when I was 14, and I've been working ever since. As an undergrad, I studied physics and architecture, so I have that left brain right. Is it working?
Yeah, just a little louder.
Oh, sorry. So I have that left brain, right brain thing going on for me. But after college, I needed to get jobs fast, so I just took whatever jobs I could, and that did include managing a cafe, working retail, working with the audience, with the public, and worked my way up to marketing and directing the sales office of a family-owned resort in the British Virgin Islands. You stole some of my talk, Jim.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm prone to do.
And in the evenings, I did teach letterpress and sort of slightly parasitically, attached myself to Columbia College in Chicago, where they have a spectacular book arts facility, and they have 8 Vandercooks and a Heidelberg offset and a Heidelberg windmill, and I basically traded my time for their time and washed pulp off the walls in the pulp making room, in the paper making room, so that I could have press time. And did that and met Jim in 2008. Took a workshop with him, had no idea what Hatch was up until probably 2 days before the workshop. And Showed up, had a great time, met Brad Vetter, who some of you may know, who has had Hatch for 7 or 8 years and is now off doing some fabulous things on his own. And just knew that Hatch was a great place. It is carrying the tradition forward in a 20th century, 21st century way, and having fun while doing it, which is important, I think, if you're going to spend as many hours standing on your feet as we do, or for whatever you do, staring at a computer screen, trying to perfect lines and things like that. Enjoy what you do. So I knew when I came down to Nashville, the first time, that I would have to be coming down for a job. And so I never visited Hatch until I knew I was coming for my pre-interview interview. And that was in 2011, I think, or so. And that was this shop. Anyway, so here I am. Everything at Hatch is, it's a labor-intensive process making a poster because everything is physical. We do nothing on the computer. There's no computer-aided design whatsoever. I'm going to run through the process, show you some recent posters that we've done since we moved, and then talk about the move and the responsibility that comes with making any sort of a transition with any sort of an entity that has existed long enough to have established a relationship with anybody, your clients, the public, or anything. And that's sort of my focus. Fewer jokes than Jim. I think as I get maybe a little bit older, I'll get a little saltier. So this is the staff. We have 10 staff at the shop, permanent full-time staff, 6 designers, and then 4 of us who run around and fill all the gaps. And we put out 600 different poster jobs a year, and the minimum order is 100. The maximum that we've done in our history is 57,000 posters. So we are, and again, physically set, all this hand set. So we are cranking every day. And our staff includes our 82-year-old auto-fed press operator, Dan, there on the left. And we do actually have 2 cats. They're in semi-retirement since we've moved because we have no rats or mice yet in the new place. But I have been told just yesterday that somebody saw 2 raccoons in the parking garage. So I have hope.
Oh.
Yes. What our process is, again, is physical. Everything is physical. If any of you have worked with us, you know that we get persnickety about you physically presenting us with the order on a hard copy piece of paper. That's what hard copy means. Via fax, in person, or actually snail mail. You can put a stamp on it if you want. So that's what is happening in the upper left corner there. You get your job folder. That is your grail. If you lose that, you lose everything. You lose your contact information. You lose your copy for your poster design and whatnot. The top middle slot picture is the most critical part of our process. That is communication with the client. And I'm sure you guys know, whether you're artists and you're communicating with your the folks that are buying your work, or your designers and you're working with your clients, the holy grail is that sweet spot where you can educate them just enough so they understand how difficult it is to do what you do. So then you typeset, retypeset. Oh God, no, that's terrible. Then somebody steals your letter, so you have to go find it. The second row down further to the right, that's Julie, another fellow printmaker here. She's Fat Crow Press in East Nashville. She worked at Hatch for a while. She's proofing her poster design. We have one shot. We take one shot. We don't do multiple comps. We do it once. And then the comp, so to speak, is black ink on white tracing paper. Proof it, take a picture of it. That is our one concession to technology, is we have an iTouch.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Actually, we have 2, yeah. Version number 1, so it's got the crappy lens. We take a picture of it, we email that to the client, and then again, critical conversation, because black ink on tracing paper looks terrible. It doesn't communicate the color that's going to happen. Once the job's approved, you throw it on the press. You spend a lot of time making it ready, which is what's happening in the lower right corner. You put tiny pieces of tape on bottom sides of wood letters to get them to all print properly, things like that. Proof. Every poster is proofed 3 times each color. Always recommend that. We've actually caught more in the time that I've been here. We've caught more errors due to our clients misspelling than we've actually made ourselves, and we've not, since I've been here, we've not had to reprint anything. So that's critical for us, because for us, designing the job is half the time, printing the job is the other half the time, and then the longest portion of the time, which is 3/4 of the time, is client interaction. That doesn't add up, I know. Also, in our shop, 30% of what we do is cleaning up and putting away, just so you guys know. Again, physical. Just like that. Once the poster's done, the type gets put into a pile. We wait until the client gets the job. They say that we love it, and then we can put the type away, because that type has to be used next week for somebody else. A few samples of posters. These represent our 4 types of clients, whether it's the record label putting something out for an artist, the artist himself. In the case of Chris Young, he wanted those posters, so he contacted us directly. The merchandise company, Willie Nelson, we've been working with Frank's merchandise company for as long as we've been working with Willie Nelson, which is 40 years or so, it seems like now. And then the venue, which was South by Southwest for Bruce Springsteen's keynote address a few years ago. One of our biggest clients in terms of the volume of posters, same poster that we do, is B.B. King. He is 87, still on tour, and we like printing his posters because he's 40 in his posters. That makes us about 90, so that makes us feel fresh and young. Different, you can sort of see some variations we've got going on. Color is our friend, negative space typically is our enemy, but of course I have a poster in there to refute that. Willie Nelson, full color, gorgeous, still full justified left to right, top to bottom, but the classic poster design is more like the Grand Ole Opry poster for Old Crow Medicine Show. And then the Corbett versus Dempsey is a gallery in Chicago that we do their seasonal rotations of the art that's coming through their gallery. Carl did a great job embracing his negative space there. And Corbett versus Dempsey is a great client because they understand what we do and they just let us do it. And sometimes the posters are 3 colors, sometimes they're 6 colors, depending on how experimental they let us get. In addition to posters, I'm going to run through some of the different product design we do. Unfortunately, I don't have much to show you of what we've done in the last 9 months because it's still coming out, but probably next week on the newsstands in Nashville, you'll see some of our cover design work on a magazine. So we do obviously CD and record album now, vinyl, which is awesome, totally awesome. Not only are we doing CD design, they're actually translating it to vinyl because vinyl's coming back. Purely typesetting. That's Hatch type on the right in every one of those photographs. And we've done that for this type of ad, but we also did it this year for a travel magazine on the West Coast. They loved the way the typesetting looked, so they just used that. This is book design. It was books of photographs of Elvis Presley in 1956, so it was a natural for Hatch to do some of the art design for the book since we were doing his posters back then. Something interesting, snowboards. And we are helping Texas Joe introduce beef jerky to the United Kingdom. And that's an ongoing project. He's introduced beef jerky, fried pigskin, beer, and root beer, I believe, so far. So when I came aboard, this was the shop. And one of the tasks I knew when I came aboard was to help move this shop into this space. Yeah. All of that, oh my, into that. And I know they're really, really tiny, but that's Jim on the right, and then on the left is Courtney, who is an intern who was extremely helpful in getting us to move our wall of type, which you'll see a composite photo at the end of the presentation. And she now works with us doing tours and a little bit of design as well. This is where we're moving. The question that comes up, of course, when you're doing something, when you make a change, and this is what we had been thinking about, and I know Jim and everybody at the Foundation and Hall of Fame were thinking about this years before I was even part of the process. How do you make such a huge decision for something, an entity that has had so much history and heritage without screwing it up? and making sure that everybody's happy. Well, one thing you do is you're very careful about how you communicate it. You would be, no matter how small what you do is, if you have any sort of following, if you make any radical changes, we learned as soon as the first press release went out, the top 2 questions were, are the cats going? And is Jim going? And we learned very, very quickly that you've got to make sure that you're prepared for all sorts of questions, because people have all sorts of attachments to the things that you've done, who you are, and what you represent, no matter how long you've been doing what you're doing. It's wonderful to have that kind of support, but it also makes for more involved conversations, and just always be prepared to have those conversations. So the Country Music Hall of Fame knew they had to move us. I will tell you that after we pulled the wall of type off the wall, this wall here on the left, that's our wall of type. That's brick behind that. I could see through our brick wall to our neighbor's brick wall after we pulled the wall of type off. So we were very happy to get out of there and very happy to get into here. And so, and the Country Music Foundation knew that. They knew they had to take care of this collection. It is historic, and we do want to continue doing this long after every single person in this room is dead. One of the things I also realized, reflected on thinking about this talk, is we were working up until the last minute. We had planned literally 10 working days of 0 press time. We turned off the presses on one Friday. We took an entire week to pack up the last parts, and we were so anxious to get printing, we started reprinting again 6 days after we turned off the press. We had planned for 10, soft 15, but we couldn't stand it, and we wanted to get stuff done. So as things like the wall were coming down around us, the staff kept designing so that we could carry stuff with us. And one of the things I would also recommend, if you're planning any large transitions, whether it's changing cities or changing career paths or whatever, if you can do a little bit of what you know you're going to do or want to do and carry that with you, just a little touchstone, I think that'll help keep you sane. It certainly helped keep us sane while we were doing it, to know that we had presses running and they were ready and waiting for us when we moved over there. Because moving, as you guys probably all know, is hell. So there we are. And see how happy Laura is. She's printing. She's cold, but she's printing. She's got a big scarf on. So we got the shop set up, as you can see. Went from that, and she's really in that corner closest to the corner there, the front of the photograph. And we started making posters. A couple things, I'll skim through these posters quickly, but 2 things I want to point out are the Willie Watson poster on the right, designed by Heather, was cut. That's a wood block, that sort of orangey brown color, was cut on a router that Mr. Hatch purchased in the 1930s, 1940s. And one of the things that we wanted to do when we moved was push the heritage forward. Part of being part of the foundation, part of being such an icon, and with 135 years for us, we want to pay it forward, push it forward. Education and continual, losing the word here, continually learning about what we're doing, our process, and learning the details of it. Mr. Hatch had purchased a router, and so Heather used that router to carve that wood block. So she's learning about it. She just learned about it when she was doing that. One of the other things we want to do is push the process forward. So those 2 Weezer posters were part of a 2-night gig at the Ryman. Instead of using wood or linoleum to carve those, we used what's called Sintra board, which is kind of a hard plastic. And those were carved quickly by hand because that's what was called for that specific job. And that was a Heather and Carl job. There's ZZ Top again. You do good work, and then they came back. And can you believe they're 45 years old this year? Incredible. Just more posters, incredible color. Negative space is the enemy. There's a huge variety of posters. That Sasquatch poster does make your eyes jump a little when you see it in person. The range of clients that we have, longtime Nashville businesses, conferences, arts, Americans for the Arts, National Poster Retrospecticus, which is a traveling poster show, and then of course DPAC, one of our major clients. When NCAA Women's Final Four, awesome. It was great to work with them. And then here's some shots of the shop as we have moved in. So you can see we pulled the gates over from Broadway. Those are in the middle, and then the architects, with Jim's suggestion, inspiration, designed that metal framework around us, around the gate. So that divides production shop, which you're looking into, and then the photographer is standing in our retail shop. One of the great things about moving was expanding and broadening our horizons physically and sort of figuratively. There's the view of the shop, pretty much the way Mr. Hatch had it on 4th Avenue. Measure 5 times, I can also recommend that. Make sure it all fits. And it looks great, covering the walls with posters. There's the retail shop that's next to you, behind you. We expanded that, separated that. That's great to have separate spaces for what your tasks are. It helps visitors understand when they come, you're coming to the production shop, you're coming to the retail shop. It's all the same. Behind the wall that you see with all the posters on it that's a little bit blown out is a classroom, and so now we have, we're doing tours, and we have family programs once a month, and we're going to continue to expand that. That's part of our mission, education, putting it forward. Paul Aiken, right there in the middle, had a press that we added to our collection. It's a circa 1900 newspaper press, and so we're using that to print jobs a little bit faster and more jobs and things like that. And again, it continues our mission of education. That's all the staff learning how to use it. He's one of my mentors. He taught me so much about printing, just like Kenneth taught Jim. We get to finally carry out projects that we had started on Broadway. These are blocks that had been meticulously reassembled. Prior to being on Broadway, they had been used as shelving in the 4th Avenue location, and so they've been gently taken away from the walls and then reassembled. And then these are two of those blocks and the resulting prints that Jim has already done for the new gallery that we have. And that brings me to this. Jim is part of the history and the heritage that I get to enjoy coming to Hatch when I come to Hatch. And it's only fitting that someone who's worked there for that long and is so dedicated to the process and makes beautiful artwork from all of these great old commercial blocks gets this wall space. So we have a fabulous gallery where his work hangs, and that's him from right before we opened. And he's been able to make a lot more work since then, which is wonderful. One of the other things that we've gotten to do a lot more of is interacting with the community. So Jim did some background printing for Herb Williams, who did a show, Thursday night thing at Oz, and that's part of the process because Herb was printing live, if you will, which is great. We have a gallery, which is great, and we're also introducing and welcoming other art into the gallery. We hosted the National Poster Retrospecticus, which is a traveling gig poster show, back in May, and this September we'll have another print artist in the gallery, so keep your eyes out for that. We always have live music, so because we are about show posters after all, and that's Heather and then Hall of Fame staff member Bob playing in Hatch, and it sounds fabulous. He plays pedal steel and she plays keyboards and sings. We couldn't have done any of this without the staff, and at the end of the day, it's these people and how they interpret whatever it is they're using, and it's you guys and your work and how you push that forward and interpret that. There's our beautiful wall of type. Lots of blocks, but only 26 letters.
Yay!
Thank you very much.